And we begin our day. It is January 4th in the new year of 2019. I'm Alex Ansary coming to you from the mountains of southern Colorado. Waking up, taking in a deep breath as the rays of the sun now shine down on this snowpocalypse. And are we going to be seeing more? In this video, we're going to be talking about specifically a Hollywood movie that I watched, that I've seen before. Of course, Hollywood movies don't have the full story, but there is a true story behind the developments of what happened in Rwanda in 1994. The movie touches on a few things, but when you actually learn just a little bit of the history of what happened, it's frightening, because this isn't a normal zombie apocalypse situation. It's a situation in which the powers that be, whether you knew this or not, stood down from pulling the Hutus radio station calling for the killings of the Tutsis. We'll talk about how the Europeans divided the race to begin with, or the racist perception of races. And then they had a favored group and a non-favored group. And then it seemed that the circumstances were set for one group to kill the other. Well, they said, no, we're not going to violate their free speech and take away their radio station. That was basically brainwashing their population to grab a machete and run around cutting, right? So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how there are things about what happened in Rwanda that we can learn. Because ultimately we're talking about the ultimate targeted individual society. And this is a deep topic. I actually want to talk a little bit about also why I live this way of life as an introduction. Because I wake up earlier than the hour in which I would wake up in the city. And again, that was dealing with, in my mind, energy. Not only the grid, but the people. A certain energy to sleeping and waking up, for example, in Southeast Portland. Also certain energy to sleeping in Dallas. There's always been this thing about me bedding down and sleeping, going into that sleep state, and perhaps our spirits travel beyond our bodies. I don't really get deep into that. It's not really an Alex Ansary specialty. But I do believe in non-local awareness. I don't necessarily teach meditation or subscribe to some of the beliefs that others do, but I'm still learning. I just believe in organically coming to certain levels of awareness. So let's take something like astral travel, and let's take something like remote viewing and psychic awareness and self-defense, even the subject of targeted individualism and the larger subject of spiritual warfare. You hear me talk about the archons. I've come to certain levels of awareness on my own. And I haven't even yet gotten to the point of documenting specifically each one of those dots in writing and making sure that's clear and publicly available. It's my goal in the next year to 2 years to get a lot more writing down, like literally defining talking points, for lack of a better definition of a phrase. But specifically what it is that I'm warning about, spiritually, what it is that I believe. How did I come to some of these conclusions? Through my life experience. What is my life story on paper? And through that, and through the life experiences, I have come to certain levels of awareness, certain conclusions, certain truths. And that doesn't mean that I have the ultimate truth, but the path to the ultimate truth has been within for myself, the truth that I am here and alive to reveal. It's a matter of answering the call. Not to mention going beyond the algorithm, outside the box. And really, in a way, I am stepping into my own power that has been suppressed for a couple of years, even a little bit longer, regarding a true sense of appreciation of my self-identity in a world that hasn't been so kind. Right. So there's a time and a place for me to actually discuss and share with the audience. There's a reason why certain things that I've gone through that you haven't gone through, that I had to overcome, make or break, sink or swim. Sink or swim. boy, because this is the Matrix. You're either going to sink, or that pressure could create the circumstances, right, that forces us in a survival situation in body, mind, and spirit, a number of different scenarios. We just have to adjust how we're thinking and how we're reacting and how we're acting to overcome that hand which is holding us down. Break the codes of the Matrix. As I remember saying to an old girlfriend as I went to my truck in the parking lot of PCM TV, and we would joke about these concepts before I got like more serious about like talking about stuff like that. We were just joking. Some of the early days, and I was much more, for those that watch my older stuff, a little less spiritual or esoteric, but I would always say it's about the spiritual battle of light and dark. But there may have been a lot of fear. Things were definitely a lot more fearful before 2012. There were some things that were less clear. There was a lot of focus on, our own government coming after us, and this and that, martial law. And some of that stuff legitimately happened, martial law drills. The reason I bring it up, we can waste energy reporting on someone else's supposed leak when that's a manufactured distraction to take away from what's really coming. People like Alex Jones, Steve Quayle, others have created the cry wolf bombardment syndrome, taking normal, rational issues about potential future outcomes and then turning it into something really quacky, and weird. And a lot of people, when I'm in person, right, I may not have the energetic focus to completely calmly and intellectually, to the best of my ability, explain myself to them, let alone introduce myself to them, let alone one-on-one be able to work with a whole lot of people. I don't claim to be all that with regards to certain things. Yet, for some bizarre reason, I do seem to have a gift of hitting the nail on the head and talking about some things that people understand that are across this planet. Right? Don't really hear from people in the Middle East. There are some language barriers, but we have a lot of viewers in Europe. Also, thank you to Tim for sending a few dollars. Thank you to Jason. I don't have a full list, and there's not a long list, but people will send anywhere from 5, 10, 20, once in a while, a little bit more. Thank you, Jason. And so these are things that allow me to do what I do because it's not easy. It feels like going outside the box of what my peers have done has made me a target. And so we deal with the mainstream media smearing all YouTube content creators as right-wing. People like me that are independent, that are trying to speak for the little guy, that are also highlighting issues of what we would call racism in our society without then going, thus, then all these people are. No, there's programming. I don't believe that any race has a specific disposition to be evil, but there's programming that somehow, some way, this is where my spiritual theories come in, that overrule political theories. That there's a almost form of not just mind control, but body control through body chemistry. There are forms of technology that I believe exist. I'm just touching on these things. Some of you are hearing me talk about these things for the first time. And you're like, whoa, I never thought about it like that. That's totally different than what we're totally taught to believe about racism and other topics. So without even jumping to some of those words, they can program an element of a society to be against another element through programming and propaganda. They can also change it up and change it in 50 years. Or the people can choose to change it. Or for a certain time, the people can should be drinking some more water instead of coffee. It's one of my goals for the new year, among other things. People that say that they're spiritual, aware, not like the others, they shouldn't just be so. Look, I understand, I'm from Portland. There's some people that want to move to an area where the vibes are cool. They like the parties. They like how it smells, looks on their block. But they end up in this, we're just an island. Their world is just an island, or somehow. And it is about keeping it local and the individual, but I wouldn't say on a local, individual, citywide level, community, because there's actually a lot of strife and lower energies within communities and cities. Thus, you almost have to have a sense of groupthink to get something done within this complex society. I think that's great if people can get something done within, I guess, the box of groupthink and do something positive with that if that groupthink expresses itself in a positive way. Here's the only real thing that comes to mind right now, like building alternative housing options for people that don't have meditation is another, but not limited to meditation. People can take that same theme of the global meditation for global world peace and love and actually apply that in their lives. And I'm like now trailing, my mind's opening up to other concepts. I've said before, women could do a lot to change reality as it is too. It's like everyone in this world has a place through their actions, what they value, what and who, and how these things play a role in the type of reality that's coming to life. It's not just about whether you have children or not. It's about the next generation of people that are going to follow. And so we have a karmic connection with past generations and a karmic connection with future generations. Okay, and I've been saying that truth for years. I'm going to be working more on bringing it down to the spiritual truths. I appreciate people that find my work that complement what I've already done. I may do certain videos again on certain topics and even certain interviews in the future. One of the things that I like to do is be able to work in different spaces other than this. Right, so certain things that are kind of between me and the universe. And right now I'm trying to come to a sense of peace within my own internal unrest and really emerge victoriously the higher self within my own matrix. Right, because there isn't really anyone or anything that's doing anything to stop me in reality from saying whatever I want to say. Now, whether or not like that's monetizable, right, whether or not that results in XYZ, well, those are, I'm going to be fair here, assumptions and XYZ. The greater reality is I am tapped into that I did create this reality, and I'm grateful for it. There's certain things that came to mind yesterday, by the way. I'm all over the map. It's not so much advice for TIs, but advice for people that deal with stress. I want to be broader than TI and deal with other words and verbiage that some of you can understand. Burnout, PTSD, these are all arbitrary concepts, but all of these things can happen to us from simply being in this world. I like to, and it's not something I do often, with what little money comes in, there are certain things that have kind of become like the micro Alex Ansary ritual, where I don't go out and spend a bunch of money on a bunch of crap or new clothing. These are all thrift store items, some of which haven't seen the laundry in a while, right? But it's good enough on camera. Oh, Alex did the sign. The thing is, where am I in all this abstract? Because a lot of different things. I like to go to, okay, so I don't think it's worth it to go more than once a year for what he charges. But there's this one place where they have a sauna. And so it's like $8 for the day. So I went twice. That was also to kind of clear out my lungs, as I mentioned recently, a brief relapse into the nick of crack, do a little bit of coughing. It really feels ceremonial. It feels like a part of maybe an older lifetime that would do something like that. Sweat lodges or something that involves that type of connecting with the spirit through some sort of alteration of the environment that alters our physiology. And there is something about the brain that feels very refreshed and euphoric from that experience. One can also feel a sense of sensitivity to other people that may also want to be in the same space, which I don't really like. I like to be alone in most of those spaces and certainly not be in a state of idle chatter. It seems to be a time for prayer and meditation when you're putting your body through stress of extreme sweating and then drinking of fluids or water. Same health club, $8 for using their sauna does not include hitting the free weights. Talk about greed. They also have a very professional, one of the best heavy bag setups that I've ever seen at a gym anywhere. So they play up that whole gym prestige for the people that are going to throw down like $200 a month for their type of health club and spa. Colorado's a different planet, folks, than some other areas. And don't ever make the mistake of thinking that going to like an average commercial mechanic is necessarily the best thing to do. And there is, in reality, maybe no such thing as off topic. Maybe everything really is on topic. But it's all kind of linking out from the center core. And other thoughts come to mind. I don't know what was going on in my dream, because there's definitely a difference in perception between the part of us that's having that dream and that is in that alternative matrix, or that heaven or hell. There could have been, hell realms that we found ourselves in. We're going through like cube type realities to where we feel lost and drained, like a hamster on a wheel, right? Maybe that's like a dream hijack. And then we can have other dreams where it's like, I think Jared for his posts. Right now, I'm not necessarily set up to be reading from the computer. Maybe in a world of also more gadgets, there'd be more interaction. Right now, I'm trying to keep things a little bit simple in the production end of things. As we, of course, come out of winter, I'm jumping around. There is a plan of mine, though, to read through certain specific documents. And instead of maybe even have myself on camera, we'll have up the text and or we'll have up the image. Some of the things that are coming up on the menu that Chef Alex Ansary has planned for you. I do plan to look at the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. It has been more about the right time for me to be in that vibrational frequency of speaking to that and giving that its focus. There may be things on the back burner that Alex Ansary needs to let out and talk about. But I found it synchronistic, as you heard me talk about how, and someone in the comment section requested that and other things while enjoying some of the Gnostic literature that I was sharing. Then Bill emerged after I had a dream, and multiple dreams, in fact, of the what is known to be the supreme deity of Vishnu. I'm not a follower of any religion, not even Hinduism, but certain things can come to us that may be hints. Then there can also be ways in which dark forces use technology to mimic the voice of God. But why would they mimic? The one reason there would be any mimic or COINTELPRO or fakery of anything is because there is a real version. Keep in mind, just because there are military technologies and alien technologies that can mimic spiritual experiences, it doesn't mean that spiritual experiences thus don't exist at all. They're trying to mimic things that may be real. I want to make that point that I'm speaking from within this truth. There's many ways in which they try to come into our world and act like they're one of us. Bro, I'm with you. I'm one of you. No. I would say that, and this could be a separate title, demons have invaded the alternative media. I would even take it a step further and say that a lot of these dudes, like I really have to start saying names, they literally come across to me straight up as the epitome of the devil. The very fact that they're claiming to be a part of the truth movement, and everything that they are and everything that they say is an absolute lie. You will know them by their character defects versus assets. And you don't even need to drop names at that point. You can actually literally do a study. I also don't believe that it's wise to just jump into other people's dramas. There was something that I mentioned recently. There was a lot of, in my opinion, dark energy around the person that was doing the attacking in the video that I recently cited. Without getting specific and creating more negative energy around it, I witnessed somebody on YouTube attack another person on YouTube that was just sharing his story. There's a lot of people in the TI movement that think they have a dominance over what's going to be said and not be said. There's also patterns of, not all, but some people in certain geographics having nasty attitudes. So there's a lot of great Portlanders, by the way. Some of you may be watching, some of you may be old friends. You're not being attacked. I also sometimes rant about McDonald's, and some of us, once in a while, will eat at McDonald's, including myself. There's ways in which I go into rants where I'm talking about the nature of something, but I'm not attacking you specifically. And I think that there is, unfortunately, like the word or not, a natural part of our psychosis, or something that comes out with technology. It's part of us and technology embedding itself with each other. It's not so much you being attacked or me attacking myself. I've learned actually a lot about a lot of these things, the technological interface on human behavior, addiction, through also being like a spirit in human form that sees and feels the pull of social media. Literally, there was a time in which I would identify Facebook to be something that got more of my text and my prana and my intellectualism than something on my own website. And I told myself in recent years, no, maybe you need to take a break from writing for a while, but what you're not going to do, Alex, higher self to just common consciousness, and you can all have that inner dialogue without being crazy, and it not being multi-personality, by the way. to have like a higher observer part of yourself almost look down and go, dude, wake up, or ma'am. You know, your words are precious, your energy is precious, don't waste it. Pearls before swine doesn't mean that we're calling people pigs or dissing on pigs. We're saying that we got pearl necklaces. These are metaphors, right? There's ways in which I have projected out a lot of truth at times to an audience that maybe didn't understand that truth. But I also have the inner truth within me that isn't coming from others, that just knows from experience that future generations usually look back at things that hit the nail on the head during a period in which the times in which that person was speaking, whoever it is. Because I believe there could be different emanations of the truth messenger. Okay, someone could cite Thoth, someone could cite Jesus, someone could cite. But there could be like a connection with spiritual teachings around the world. And you're noticing that I'm coming to that. You're coming to that. Awareness. That I'm not centering this on just one place in China where the truth is. Or one place in India or Afghanistan. Or one place or person in Colorado. Or one thing in Oregon. Or one specific event in 2025. And, oh, by the way, there is... I don't listen to NPR on a regular basis, but here is, come on down. It's like I really do need my own stripper showgirl. But she'll keep her clothes on to keep it clean for YouTube. But just, you know, hint, hint, future girlfriends out there. Highly qualified things that stand out, acrobats, number 1. Backflips, number 2. Multiple languages, ability to edit video. That also elevates the resume. Multiple personalities and me, that all that lowers the point system, the point value system. Doing research into that person that you're talking to, being more from the heart and the political conspiratorial, raises the value of said messenger, of said potential friendship. There's ways also in which I could just go deep again, like I did years ago, look at that, and get back into relationships without being afraid of the MGTOW crowd or the feminist crowd that want to keep me in their boxes. I talk about real freedom and respect of the average male and female and how that's basically missing in today's society. And even I've made the mistake of the boxes. But I did say early on as a disclaimer, it makes sense for any member of any gender to go to YouTube and say, look, here's my grievance with the opposite sex. Don't hate you, but this is what the issue is. What we have now with the internet is an ability now for men and women to talk about men and women's issues in a way that previously we were controlled by religions, we were controlled by local power structures, people were controlled by families and arranged marriages. And now there's this new world of freedom that some say is the multicultural nightmare, but there's elements of freedom in which people that are different can learn from each other. Never before have some of you actually ever heard someone in English of my genetic background speak these things. I've said in past videos that I'm of a unique background. That's something to not actually throw away, but acknowledge if you've been programmed in the back of your mind that people are subhuman that come from a particular line. The audience member then that has that implant that believes that would at some point have to confront their hypocrisy if they were to ever call themselves a friend or fan of mine. That at some point, in order to overcome hypocrisy and the very circumstances that even led to my birth to begin with in 1980, the very circumstances that even led to my birth in 1980. So if there's certain belief systems that dominate certain people, because at some point I basically gave them a choice. And I believe most people went for the choice of sticking with the illusions of separation that I know of. Unless ego has prevented all of them from saying, Alex, I used to be stuck in the illusions of separation, but you're the one that snapped me out of the spell. I have yet to actually hear that from someone. So, just a little something to share between myself and the audience. There are some people that said, hey, Alex, maybe I thought you were controlled opposition or in with Alex Jones or something like along those lines. There's been a few people. Or Alex, I thought you were a libtard. I'm actually still waiting, though, for the person that for a while may have been overtly into white supremacy or into the illusions of separation to say, you know, I actually used to have some really concrete belief systems about birth rates, values, perception of value based on birth. But Alex, the things that you said contributed to me looking at the world through different eyes, right? I'm still waiting for the day where I get that anonymous tip from that person that may even do it anonymously because their ego won't allow them to say it with their actual identity. So at some point, the spiritual being inside today's human could at any point say that anonymously in the same way that threats and trolls have used anonymous means. And the reason I say that is because I look forward to the day in which I report to you that the world, not a matter of ego, treats me with the same level of friendliness. That's what I'm looking for. And fairness in some circumstances that it's treated others with, to where there's like a turning of the tide, like whoop, the ship, the big mega ship that's been in a solid direction for a certain amount of time. Who knows, something really crazy might happen, like someone that I know says, hey Alex, there's this amazing job opportunity here, online or elsewhere. Or hey Alex, we're starting a alternative media network, there's legitimate people involved, check out this proposal. There could be certain things. There could be people that I heard from the past, liberal people that thought I was right-wing. They're like, yeah, you're totally not with Trump, dude. We believe you. There could be tons of signs for the egoic mind of this society to go, yeah, we know we've been dicks from the left to the right. Here's a peace pipe, or here's a peacemaking symbol of whole. And it's literally of the unspoken from one spiritual being to another if they, though, were on the path of the Spirit. Because if they were, then we connect to the middle with the Om. Because that's generally where I'm coming from. And not demonizing a particular great race, group, religion, politician, or sports team. You know I leave out those sports teams. But we talk about the obsession with the sports teams. Not so much one particular sports team being the problem, or being necessarily this, that, or the other, but just the whole group think of that whole Monday Night Football mania, and how that template also of the celebrity worship and the archetype worship, that becomes people's gods. So it doesn't matter who it is, whether we're talking about, Obama, the false god coming out of the water. Ooh, sexy Obama. Yeah, type in Obama Willamette Week. Portland water. Just Google. Watch, let the images inform you as Alex Ansari speaks. Obama comes out of the water. Portland Willamette Week. Now, so before Trump, let me articulate this a little bit more. Like, I had already been on the air for a few years, and people were elevating Obama above me. And I felt really insulted by that. Just like I saw people elevate Trump above me. It's like, I'm a real deal. I'm a real man. I'm a real person who doesn't have like an army and a bunch of guns and a bunch of family members and bloodline and stuff and secret societies and intelligence agencies. I'm one guy by himself who was just born in this world who speaks his own mind. And people would suspect that because I wouldn't be in their club, because I wouldn't blame the Jews, because I wouldn't blame the blacks, or because I wouldn't blame all Republicans, because it comes from the other side too. See, it comes from the left too, robot radicals. I've talked about this in past videos. I'm a genuine independent who speaks more about issues and safety issues and news regarding your society and your cities and things coming to America in the future, more so than you hear me talk about even Afghanistan. It was more so I talk about that and them to go, hey, look at what they've done to them. They're probably prepping something for your children later through the progression of things, through what we know about how kingdoms fall, the rise and fall of civilizations. Even people that get into grand solar minimum have a belief system and level of science, at least the science of looking at the sun, how it affects our world, whether it goes one way or the other. That's all related to this. They may not themselves see how the world events are related, and the people that look at world events may not see how the sun is related. I do. And I'm going to assume that future generations are going to be more into the sciences based on whatever survives. There can even be, let's just keep jumping, parallel societies in other universes or parallel realities that are studying our world now as we speak, peering into our world. There are also forms of darkness that peer into our world through webcams and probably watch our world from above and pick their targets. It's basically from those realms that they create the ultimate psychosis in some people that say that the only targeting comes from other human beings in their community. and that it's a lie to say that there's something beyond that which they can see. Let's get back to Rwanda. The reason we're going to talk about Rwanda is because there's a level of targeting that TIs don't talk about. And it's when people aren't just targeted so, they don't get sleep and they're hearing voices in their head or something narcissistic to where it's just about them. No, I'm talking about like a subliminal targeting of a whole species or element of, let's just call it for what it is, a race. There are technologies to where they can target certain races, whether they be black, white, Middle Eastern, or other, to riot or be provoked or to act in a certain way. I think then over time, they can also, with mind control, convince a certain amount of group or people or race to hate another race or to fear them, or for their ancestral programming of what may have happened in the past in Europe for that to be activated. So people are thinking more with their 13th century minds and their 21st century minds. I'll credit Clyde Lewis with that direct line of logic. I don't know if the current Ground Zero, Clyde Lewis, voice of reason on corporate Republican radio, says that in other former truths anymore. I will doubt it, because whatever he's involved in now is not the Clyde that I once knew. But, if there was a best of Clyde Lewis 2002, 2003, 2004, all these pre-Obama era. And what did he go, Alex, why pre-Obama? Do you like him? No, will you please get over the mind control spell and watch my old shows where I'm laying out Obama and the New World Order. I actually had to delete some stuff with copyright. The point is to see the system for what it is and not just be awakened when a black guy's the president or someone that Donald Trump tells you isn't an American. Here we are all this time later. Donald Trump should still be making that his number one issue, not sitting next to Obama. Like when you see him sit next to Obama and they're closer in that funeral thing with George Bush Sr. than they are with the Clintons, again, I not only predicted he would be the selection, I said there would be the backslap of Donald Trump. I don't know if he literally backslapped him, right? But he certainly congratulated him. There certainly wasn't and then Obama was swimming. And the people are going, oh, Obama, we miss you. Trump makes you look so much sexier. I mean, that's just disgusting. The thing I used to say about Barack Obama, he's a guy that come in, make it look like a black guy did it. Make it look like a black guy did it. And on top of it, make it look like a black guy did it, it was a foreigner. Make it look like a black guy did it, it was a foreigner who didn't want to burn here. Instead of him being a part of the New World Order. Right. And a lot of that stuff in the Alex Jones documentary stuff regarding the all-out economic collapse, we didn't see that, nor do we see the angry black civilian Obama worshipers take to the streets and create martial law. But there were certain things and conspiracies about Obama, the Antichrist, that I feel took it to a level where it didn't need to go. And then there were other areas in which they just jumped over. We're seeing the same thing now. There are people out there, by the way, that are critics of Trump, right? Let's talk about MSNBC. Oh, they're not going to talk about Yemen and the children dying there. But they'll mention a porn star by the name of Stormy Daniels 455 times in the year 2018. Does that sound like a network that's opposed to the Trump deception? Yes or no? Cue the Jeopardy theme. I don't have a fancy editor like AMTV or others. But if I did, can you imagine what type of a show this would be with all the different elementals? I'm talking about editing, folks, not strange nature spirits. But on that note, like I say, there could be time for our nation. And there could be certain situations where it'd be worth my while to travel somewhere else. And I'd be doing radio interviews. But right now, looking at the writing on the wall, here's how I see it. We probably only have a few years left at best for this type of a medium. Once we start seeing major disruption, you could say that the shit is hitting the fan. Where are you going to be? Are you comfortable in the state that you're in? Are you comfortable in the area that you are in? Are you realistic about the threats that could come? On top of that, if you're a spiritual person, if you're a Christian, a Muslim, I'm going to be fair to people that are members of religions, but there's certain elements to their faith that I'll ask them, are you true to even your own faith? If you're a member of a faith. Do you have true faith in God? Do you remember that scene from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade? Right, where the guys chase him on the boat, and then I think someone was threatening to blow up the boat. I think that was Harrison Ford. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And the guy that's pursuing him because of this thing he's looking for, it's against related to the Hollywood version of seeking the Holy Grail, Indiana Jones style. But the guy says, my soul is ready. How's yours? With absolute confidence. We shouldn't be going out looking for situations to where things are going to be, boom, boom, boom. No. We shouldn't be out running out into fights either. We should try to preserve our life for as long as the Creator gives us life. But a statement like that, spoken in truth and in peace, is something that a lot of people can't say. My soul is ready. How's yours? And that has to do with a true faith in one's actions in this world, not serving the demiurge, not serving the God of this world, but serving something higher. And knowing that what we do here matters. And that we're literally facing a sea of people that say that all of our spiritual truths are absolutely lies and are of the fallen one. We have people that are now emerging saying it's all inverted. And trying to mix up people with genuine spiritual ideas to false flag them and put them in the category of all these horrible people that have done horrible things that have come before us in the name of religion and in the name of some elements of the dark new age and other things. The list goes on. Right? There's going to be many people like Rantha in our midst. We can't necessarily change that people tend to fall down and worship the person that claims to be channeling an ancient Atlantean spirit who happens to be male while she's in a female body. If that isn't weird enough, for those that aren't aware of that, you can find that out on your own time. There are also others, right, that have the body. Ooh, they have the body. They have the look. She's got the look. Teal Swan's got the look. And then you actually get into those teachings and some of the things that are being said. There are some things that are spiritual there that are just general spiritual ideas. You can find that on your own. Then there's some other stuff that it's like, whoa, this is something that my intuition's telling me stop listening to, get away from. And at some point, some of you, it would be better served if you read books than watched random people on YouTube. They have a lot of questionable spiritual teachings. Instead of get super advanced with binge watching YouTube and doing more stuff with your smartphone, maybe the codes of the matrix that you need to crack comes from meditation and having all of your electronics off. Maybe doing some writing. Okay, so you think you're learning some things about protecting yourself. Can your mind focus long enough and overcome the ADHD to write? The answer for me in some cases is no. The ADHD issue with me sometimes is so great that I'm not writing. But am I aware of it? Am I brutally self-honest? There are people that looked at me early on and they're like, dude, you're not going anywhere in life because you just honestly tell your audience what's up. You need to shield that stuff, dude, and be professional. All my life, I've had to face the reality that from day one, I told you elements of my background and story that could have prevented me from reaching certain heights. Maybe my 9/11 activism was just too salty during certain periods in which when I was yelling the truth from a megaphone, I generally appeared dangerous to an element of society. Now, I don't do that anymore, right? But did that mark me? Now, here's a greater question. Does that even matter? Do I even care? The criminal history, making mistakes in heroin. There's a part of me and talking about that most people would never do. But it sets elements, not all, elements of the ego free. Other people can stumble upon that and not know that I'm open about that and go, I've got the thing that's going to destroy Answery. Exposed. What's in for all? And it's way back when I was discussing what was going on within Alex in 1999 that led to him making some bad decisions that could have killed young Alex. But young Alex seemed to have enough of a glow that stuff that can kill a horse somehow. Something happened within my life that caused a shift. And when that shift happened and I began looking at certain elements of truth, normal means of recovery never applied. And society would never say to an Alex Answery that ironically has an opioid crisis, just to let you know, remind you. Society would never go, dude, you've overcome so much shit in our crazy society. And you literally jumped into different things. What's your story? Society's never asked to interview me about my story. The reason I don't let a little bit of praise go to my head is because I'm keeping it real. Society doesn't look to me in the real world and go, Alex Ansary, we recognize you. I'm not playing victim by bringing this over and over. I'm stating my strength in a world where in the real world and flesh, I'm not getting that validation. Now, what I am getting is something that has to be looked at with a grain of salt and balance. And that's to a certain degree increased audience support. Sometimes that's donations, sometimes that's a few emails. Again, I want to thank those of you that energetically have sent me positive energy, people that have prayed, people that have done positive things in the past, people that have even helped with relocation. But you cannot deny how rare that is. You're not the 1% of society. You're not even the 0.1% of society. You're like the 0.0000000. And then some people that felt like helping for a certain time, or some people that like this channel, they changed and their values changed and their politics changed. Well, all I did is go even deeper. Do you see me running around protesting, yelling at people, getting drunk in the streets? Do you see evidence of those videos in the past? A few. Now, what is the constant theme here? Spiritual evolving beyond the matrix. Yeah, this is really offensive material. Like letting out a fart in the room that just clears everybody out of a grocery store. Kind of an exaggeration, but paints the picture in the mind's eye. I've become less political and more spiritual, but I don't make excuses for tribalism on the left and the right. I got a little bit more articulate in recent years about how it feels to be an outsider. And people that I wasn't even trying to alienate were alienated anyways. Here's what I noticed. Back in the day, prior to 2012, society was a little bit more lenient to me with normal grievances, but not very much. But it would be in recent years to where as certain injustices would increase, we would see the rise in reality of the snowflakes on the right side saying, oh, that's SJW. Even everything, like every historical fact, every little bit of knowledge, right? Every voice of reason that says, don't be a hypocrite, dude, look at this. Then to just make an argument that it's all annoying, sniveling SJWs or punks that jump on cars, that's a straw man argument. That's created to basically like step on all free speech for all time. Imagine like the roles reversed, but the roles are reversed. It's already taking place. There are people that attacked me and put me wrongfully in the category of the right. I just told you the other day I stumbled upon a Trump supporting channel that talks about a bunch of crazy shit. And who's it recommending on the sidebar? Outside the Box with Alex Ansary. Does that sound like that makes very much sense? Show me who's a big time mental health expert or spiritual teacher. Or someone like David Icke. Not that I like everything that he said or does. He's a better example of a lot of other dudes that are out there. Certainly more than Alex Jones. Never elevate AJ over David. I don't worship nobody though. But I'll recognize the good deeds that some men have done. But with the case of Alex Jones, here you have the template example of you can do good deeds and actually shoot all those good deeds in the kneecaps by working against those things. The Alex Jones of 2018 can't ride on the coattails of the good deeds that he did looking back at the Alex Jones of 2012 after he already did shift to the darkness and was doing weird trailers like Satan Speaks. Google it. And look at all these Freudian projecting of the dark side. Now, again, let's get back to Rwanda, but sad but true, Alex Jones is the segue. You're not going to like it, but I'm not here to cater to a few audience members with loyalties to deceivers in the alternative media that have divided us and have lied to some of us that have supported individuals like him for many, many years, only to be thrown under the bus and him see it go this particular way. You're either with us or you're the people we threw under the bus. Communications was critical in Rwanda when the Tutsis were being killed. Under the guise of free speech, no one shut them down. The French armed the Hutus with machetes, and there's a deeper story than even that. What you have today are people misusing free speech to a certain degree to incite fighting the enemy. The problem is, not only is the people that they say the enemy not the enemy, in no way do I think that Gavin McInnes or Alex Jones are operating outside the hand of the government. And there is a level above our government, the Russian government, even the Chinese government, that may overlap. There could be like an overlapping level of multi-pronged intelligence agencies where they have agents working on behalf of many at the same time, to where it's not really as balkanized as you might think. There might be like a world order agreement that already exists, that already has their worldwide intelligence agency and agreements at a higher level of the pyramid. Well, down here at mass consciousness level, no, they don't talk about that. The Alex Joneses of the world don't talk about it. The Alex Answers of the world do talk about it, although I'm pretty sure I'm the only one. Who knows? There could be a generation of people after me. Who knows what will become of these videos? I should never belittle the value of my own videos, despite the fact that I live in peace, which I'm grateful for, in isolation, however. And as a result of the isolation, in this lifetime, another weekend message to future generations, there could be groups of even women that like me in the future. I wish there was a guy like me in their fallen world in the future. I'm flattered from those of you in the future. You can feel it right here. Just wanted to let you know, in my era, in my time, kind of like when Sarah Connor is asking the guy, tell me about the women of your time. In my time, I lived alone. In my time, it was me just talking to like a handful of people, a few hundred at best, in my 13th or 14th year. I'd actually say in my 12th year for like too long. It's actually like my 14th year, maybe even 15th year coming up pretty soon. But it's like, as a result of me doing all this, I lived in isolation. And somebody could say, well, that's backwards. That's backwards because you weren't promoting all of these evil, atrocious things. I know it's backwards. That's kind of the point. So from an actual life experience of even like interacting with like mainline leftists, I saw how they cared more about LGBTQ elemental P, XYZ issues than like genuine actual issues. Like, you know, a supposed hate crime, top news, a friggin' wedding cake, Portland, Oregon. I've literally had countless people on the left refuse service to me when I'm talking about 911 or Portland or other things, right? I've been in some bar in Portland, some ladies throwing me out because I'm talking about something because I was triggered. You know, and someone got me going and we're going back and forth about how we ended up in these wars. And yeah, I've been in the situation where I've been the ultimate guy that they have seen as the blasphemy one. And I've had to basically overcome that and keep going. What a lot of people like to do right now, they're allowing themselves, right, as they're attacked by people that don't like their message, and they're going back and forth like ping pong ball, like a ping pong game. And they don't realize that they have a choice in the matter where they want to go back and forth with an object of interference. Let's go back to talking about the sauna, though, and making sure that you get enough food. Again, as a solution to interference, stress, don't put it all in the box of TI, especially when we're talking about spiritual parasites. And so there's a ton of people on this channel now, people feeling guided to my work. Tons of them. They're dealing with these issues. But do I ever really hear deep feedback on people getting deep into the meditations and grounding themselves and powering up? No, I don't. I actually think that it's bad for a bunch of TIs to be buzzing around each other, like bouncing off each other, psychic energies and whatnot. I think that the energies that target those people that are in reality spiritual parasites, not people talking on their watch like Dick Tracy, but spiritual parasites, they can cause a lot of interference when you have a lot of people who have a similar problem in the same room, unless you have a higher angelic force come to, you almost need to call on the actual angels to deal with the demons. So if you have a bunch of people on the internet coming together with demons or in a real conference, the power of light has to be power in the strong power of darkness. I believe I witnessed at Mark Passio's event, the Free Your Mind Conference, demonic possession, one woman who was jumping out in outbursts during various periods. I didn't record it, but if there's a group of people that are coming together to talk about esoteric things, if there's more people with demons in the host and audience members than people that are actually on the light, and I have an opinion about that, but I don't have to share it, you can probably get an idea, though. Maybe not. Maybe you're not that sharp. Maybe I have to literally paint a picture, throw a hint, things are not as they seem. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Things are not as they seem. So if you don't have a space grounded out, and you got a bunch of paranormal mofos stepping up in the room, gonna call out like the aliens and whatnot, oh man, get ready to see some Ghostbusters. No, I don't mean Dan Aykroyd coming through with Bill Murray and Zapp and Slimer, but more so the actions of Slimer without people actually seeing Slimer. All of a sudden somebody could pop up and go, "Don't touch me there." Or someone could be shouting at Jay Parker, accusing him of something because he's a man. I watched this woman with obvious mental health issues act like she was possessed at the Free Your Mind Conference 2013. And it was during a break, so I don't know that Mark witnessed it. There were other forms of interference. I think some people had to be asked to leave. I've had meetups where really strange people, like one guy came up to me in the bathroom when I'm taking a piss at one of my meetups in Portland saying that he was sent by them to just watch me. Whether it was to skin, and really I think that he was pranking me. I think that he was an alcoholic. Another Southeast Portland, Outer East Side, still living in the 1980s. I mean, because literally I saw him like at bars later on in Portland. They don't look like well, I guess they could have people that are alcoholics, scumbags, that literally could be, he's like, once an agent, always an agent. I'm just letting you know, man. And I didn't have like a lot of things like that. It wasn't meant to be threatening. It was just weird. And also all the different times, though, that I could have been stabbed, that I could have been shot, but wasn't. And it's from those types of things that it's made me believe that life is worth continuing to pursue the truth, speak the truth. Search the truth, speak for the truth, take the risks in a fallen world that the people that have done what I've done, people have done far less, right, have basically been killed in various cultures around this world. So these are things to consider. So final thoughts with regards to this, wrapping this up. Hotel Rwanda was a film that I watched recently, and recently talking about the facts surrounding that and how the media was instrumental in programming an element of the population that was also programmed to know that when they heard certain words used, that was the signal to begin their attack. And so when you start to see things move in certain directions in our society, you should become aware of what those things are, those thought forms. In the documentary part on Rwanda, someone was talking about how, like, the Red Cross officials dealing with elements of the government that were carrying out these atrocities, or the other groups, the rebels, they were called talking to absolute evil incarnate. And the thing is, evil incarnate, when it rises in multiple areas at once. It can rise in multiple ethnicities. There could be a thought form. There could be a period in which for a number of years a certain group is acting a particular way, like they're possessed. I find 1994 interesting for the period of the Hutus doing what they did to the Tutsis, as we also saw a sharp increase in gang violence. Also through targeting of American blacks, through all of that propaganda that they were. So intelligence agencies and dark forces can, to a certain degree, target an element or a society to do something to another element or society. Look at our country and what it's done to Afghanistan through multiple races, anti-themism, and how that's basically used as the gasoline on the fire to do things that haven't been done yet, that will be done, that will also be evil. There's a lot of propaganda that's been created that has a lot of people foaming at the mouth and seething. And they don't realize that events are being manufactured by the powerful to ultimately entrap them on a soul level. So on a soul level, someone could be entrapped and literally chained to hell. And I think that there is a certain level of spiritual awareness in realizing that this is a higher hell realm. It's not the lowest of the hell realms, but it's not the highest of the realms. It's a lower underworld realm of flesh, where we as spirit animate flesh. And instead of see each other as spirits, as equal specks of life, we've been cast down into the different shades, and the ultimate race war propaganda is now alive. Technology existing that Hitler could only dream of. We literally have a history where people used to be concerned about certain things, rise of gangs, white supremacy, and now we have a shift within elements around society that wants to poo-poo things that were actually normal concerns. for years, especially since Nazi Germany. Actually, now in recent years, we hear, oh, it didn't happen, it doesn't exist. Oh, the sun is a light bulb, it's a flat earth. Oh, the KKK exists, but it's only on the left, but now they went from anti-black to anti-white. And they just try to explain things away by pointing out Soros and Clinton. But even if they talk about Clinton, well, making false accusations that somebody's with Clinton if they're not with Trump, which is just psycho. It's like saying you're racist if you don't like Obama. Out of those people that have made all this noise about Hillary Clinton, why don't I hear them talk about the 800,000 Rwandans? Let's get to it. I almost forgot to, that Bill Clinton said, and he admitted, that the United States doesn't intervene unless there's a direct American interest. There was not a direct American interest to stop the slaughter of the Tutsis. And it's almost as if they showed the world what they did in plain sight as they evacuated the whites, but they stood down as the people of Rwanda, even the moderate Hutus, which were killed by other Hutus. Again, take note of the violent rhetoric that whites say about other whites. While they play up racial divide, look at the type of rhetoric coming out of Alex Jones and Gavin and some of the followers. Look at the fighting in the streets. Look at how one group or demographic, one side of the village fights the other over who has the moral superiority. Look at how hypocritical and strange that would be to begin with. Look at the lack of real people talking about the real issues that matter. Look at how no one talks about the bombed or the fallen in Iraq or Afghanistan. Look at how people will say that they care about those people. But look at how they do it as a buzzword. When it's Barack Obama as the president, then when Trump's the president, now they're not concerned about civilians that are brown. Now it's no longer an issue for them to talk about drones. And there will be people that come across my videos, right, that will hear me call out their bullshit in a way that no YouTuber has, leaving them wondering, what the fuck? Instead of having an attitude with me, bro, you ought to go deeper into how you not lose your soul to the devil of this world. You ought to reach one epiphany and ditch the ego and ditch the political party and the ties to a biology, a ties to an ethnicity, a ties to your friggin' face. Your face is going to grow old one day and you're going to pass forward. Now, do you think that there are different heavens that are separated for different racial groups? And if so, who told you this? Would that be the Norse mythology that kind of came in the back door? There are some gods that created some people, and then you have other gods that aren't really gods, that are demons, and they created the Moors and whatnot. Is there some sort of a psychology that exists? Because I would actually have to now bring that into question. If people have belief systems in afterlives relating to gods that speak solely to their biology, but not others. I would say yes, through the back door. And this is why you're going to see the rise in elements of Norse mythology, right? In movies that are coming out, in video games that are coming out, because there are darker connotations. So it's not so much a matter of Carl Jung comes to mind and his book, Man and His Symbols. And there's a lot of good content that people cite. Various people have said it to me regarding Carl Jung. I see some parallels between some of the ways in which I look at things and him. Although I'm not really on a path right now of doing a cross-comparison historical study, I think maybe after I'm gone, people could compare Alex Ansary to Carl Jung on a really deep level. But I don't think in this life that I'm meant to join any particular group, teaching, latch onto this one thing and say this is it. Instead, I see, and this gets back into some of my plans for the new year, various different teachings and texts that deal with some of the subject matter that I'll be bringing to you. Some of the stuff you can already be looking at now on your own. And you can fill in the clues as to how it could be applied in our potential futuristic reality. Knowing what you've heard me say about Dion Fortune, right? And the idea she was doing protective rituals, elements of magic, very much Arthurian. But it's also interesting when you read, research, and learn about the castle in Germany that Himmler organized, Himmler under Hitler, where they were also tapping into the cross, the Arthurian symbology. So here you literally have the perception of light and dark, and I will say there is that distinction. You have the UK and you have Nazi Germany. I'm not saying that all that's good. UK Churchill, but you had the advance of the Nazis and what they were doing, so they were obviously the lesser of the evils in that conflict. And I think that, of course, you would have a hidden hand controlling the outcome, but I do believe that there are examples that can be cited, like San Luis, Colorado. Despite the corruption there, it's believed that they summoned a spirit of protection when Native American Indian tribes were heading towards their town to massacre them. Now, here's a little bit of an anomaly. I mentioned this in video several months ago, several weeks after that. I'm not saying there's a connection. I could have been just picking up on San Luis and something happening. Someone vandalized their sacred objects in San Nicasio, Colorado. One of them relating to a statue that related to this mythos of them being defended by an entity. On this topic, my friend Angelus that helps me with code in the back end of my website, she's pretty intuitive about certain things, and I can bounce some ideas off her. And one of the things that she noticed was the desecration of sacred objects in a couple of different stories that we were looking at once. Another story had to do with these special Kachina dolls that were believed to be protective spirits by the Hopi of Colorado, and those have been placed somewhere else in a museum. Maybe a belief that some of these things shouldn't be just unearthed and so public, that there's a purpose in some things remaining buried or sacred. There's also been, and it was ironically in that same week in which I'm looking at the zoom-ins on a larger rock that shows a face. I'm zooming in on a headdress. All right, I didn't show you the whole picture. I just did a zoom in so you could see the dragon. Look, there was a dragon here on that face. Look, there's a long old pharaoh hybrid thing on the side of the face. Looked like there was like a Egyptian snake thing over here. It looked Incan almost, or almost pre what we would call Mayan, Egyptian, Incan, that dealt with that goddess serpent symbolism that later became heavily demonized by the church. We're also talking about the ancient religions of the sun here, ladies and gentlemen, in the good old American Southwest, the Four Corners, that had advanced mathematical knowledge. The ancient Pueblos in Mesa Verde have a sun temple in which those same measurements, it's 8.85 feet across these several circles. It's like a stamp. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like this is like measured almost exactly. They found the same thing, I believe, in Egypt and or Greece or Mexico. At least two other nations, the same type of a symbol. In a sun temple. Now I'm just all over the place. But it's like there literally is an ancient world under our feet. I do believe that. Someone can look at Bill Gorman's pictures and have a different maybe take on what those pictures are. There's nothing wrong with that. How do we know what those pictures really are or what it really means? But we can say, you know what? This rock doesn't look like a normal rock. This series of formations within these rocks almost seems to tell a story. And when you start to look at other mythos, and once you start to actually almost see nature in a different way, or rocks in a different way, an image will pop up, or you'll drive by a certain area, You'll drive by a certain area, or you'll look up at the mountaintops, and you might just wonder, are those just rocks? And what does it mean when someone says that's just a rock? And how is that spiritual? There's actually someone that said, well, that's just a rock. Well, what does that even mean? Because rock is still matter. And there could still be a reason why rocks form over a great deal of time. Just like clouds may form that could, in their own way, briefly represent the living force of spirit in the air. Whether that's perceived to be a benevolent spirit, malevolent spirit, or both. I would go both. And I have photographed strange faces in the sky in Dallas in 2012. I have photographed faces coming out of the tree. I never assumed they were carved or the work of man. I assumed in both of those cases that was a version of the existence of nature spirit. Not so much something to worship, but something to understand. There's a reason why so many times in nature I've seen what looks like the female body part, reproductive part, also looks like the eye of Sauron. Hint, hint, wink, wink, literally in a tree. And I'm going, and this is more of and then you go even deeper. You look at the actual structure of the brachyli, or however you enunciate it, of the human lung, and you see what appears to look like a tree. And then you see things like the tree of life demonized. You see concepts like eating of the tree of good and evil and realizing like the split, demonized. It also hit me in my dream state, at least I can remember this one. A big part of waking up to the matrix is that distinction. So that could be the distinction between good and bad, being apart and breaking free from the matrix. So we have to overcome those forces in our evil world, fallen world, that say don't look at those areas, don't eat of the knowledge of tree or good or evil, don't be able to distinguish, just follow the angry God, follow me. Like, no, we're reaching now a point where we're starting to gather various spiritual teachings and texts, and we're going to be demonized for it and encouraging other people to look beyond the God of this world. And it's not over yet. We have a history here on earth of the people that thought differently than the church being wiped out. And there were periods in which it was okay to come out of the closet and share our knowledge. And there was a period in which a hammer dropped. And there was a calling. Well, who's to say that those Cathars, those Gnostics, and others, by the way, that would have been killed by the Muslims in the past as they spread, that would also include the Sufis, people on the spiritual path. There's also other elements of the East Asian countries that have their history of violence today, unfortunately, more than ever with India and the horrible things that are happening in India, a country I've never been to. But you look at the violence in the news and you can't help but think about like archonic entities over the country of India today. See, I'm not in India, so I don't have the same chance or opportunity to speak about the evil of India because I'm in the United States. You got to understand and have the adult maturity that I'm a gold mine of analysis when I set my focus on something. You hear me talk about what I know is what it is. Sometimes you may not like that. But I know what it's like to be judged by this society. And as a result, it's helped me broaden my horizons. If you like some of the horizons I've broadened, like it or not, you need to know what my roots are and what I've overcome, like it or not. If there's hypocrisy, where you think that some people born of a certain level or are lower than, but you say you're a fan of mine, you will be confronted repeatedly with the hypocrisy of that belief system. And it's usually viewed with suspicion if someone has those belief systems and they're a viewer of my channel. That's not going to be viewed like as a positive thing. That's going to be a little bit concerning. Especially knowing that basically I have chosen to volunteer in a surveillance society where I allow you to surveil me to a certain degree, other than sleeping and certain things and eating and super embarrassing, compromising positions. But more or less, I allow you to surveil whoever you are, whoever you work for, whether you're human or non-human, whether you come in peace or war. I allow you a slice into my mind and how I'm seeing your world and how I'm seeing the people of your society set the people of your society up while you create these really common enemies of various types of Lord of the Rings style barbarians trying to come over the wall with a mammoth. Something very akin to Lord of the Rings. I'll be the guy to remind you that as beautiful as Lord of the Rings was, your culture was activated with that archetypal, you're being attacked by the invaders over the wall, you need to go get them through the 9/11 event, which oddly enough came about as Lord of the Rings, the #1 movie, was reaching people around the world. I don't think most people were identifying with the Gnostic truths or the lighter side of Norse mythology that might be seen within Lord of the Rings. Maybe there is a darker reason why Gandalf does, in fact, resemble Odin to a certain degree, and Odin, unfortunately, is rising in certain popularity with far-right groups in this nation. And the reason why that will continue to be a topic and significant is that people are so brainwashed in their entity worship and magic, which is really dark, when they're basically summoning entities to bring them money, hits, and power and stability. When they're going around the supreme deity and they're picking certain deities that they think will choose to favor them specifically, they're playing with black magic, in my humble opinion. And they need to be careful, unless it's being done for the greater good of all, and they're choosing to be selfless with their materialism and that which they're accruing, especially when it's in mass and it is a massive amount of people. Are those massive amount of people that are watching certain channels being directed to think positive thoughts about certain people, or are they being sent after people? As if YouTube is going to serve the function of armies of death in the future. As people get doxxed, as identities go up, and then people that are part of the targeted individual dark side advanced op, they start activating, hearing voices in the head, and almost getting commands from their computer and their email to seek out certain people and create the interference and stop that person from their broadcast. Through just even creating a drama or a situation. And the different types of ways that can manifest are there, but there's also angels that seem to be watching some of us that prevent some of these multiple attacks from taking place. In some cases, we're attacked anyways because we're supposed to evolve beyond our own ego, not see and defend our own image online to people that don't even have discernment. Like, there's a difference. Like, there's certain things that the Creator's going to come in and intervene, and there's certain things in which we just got to evolve beyond the ego that's tied to what other people think about us. So it could be things that happen to you or me that are in that category of slander, which are really there to help liberate us from trying to get people to basically whatever. Look at us in a certain light. We have an opportunity to be better than the Alex Joneses of the world, than the Chris Greens of the world, and so many others that compromise themselves on the left or the right. I talk about things that I'm most familiar with, people that I'm most familiar with. When I call out some of the same people, it's because they're some of the most influential and they could do the most good Jedi if they had a shift. Chris Green could do amazing levels of good if he were to use that large audience in a better way, or the large subscription numbers in a better way than just sell Bitcoin rich or promote Donald Trump. He can have a shift, which is leading me to my next thought. The way this thing works, I believe, is that the universe does keep sending truth and messengers through all bloodlines. So there could be someone that's born into, that's destined to come back into this world, not as a member of those that are going to be hated the most and the most poor, but as someone that's literally born into a elite family bloodline who literally defies his or her mother or father and says, no, I'm not going to do this. In fact, I'm going to push this button over here and release these human slaves from their cages. I'm going to release that, like, think Fantastic Planet, the 1973 French cartoon. I'm going to release those tracking devices from their necks. Think about like one of the members of the Blue Aliens, not to confuse that so much with Krishna, or one of the Hindu deities, but they have these evil blue entities in Fantastic Planet. And so whether you think of that, reptilian, the archons, but think about, wasn't necessarily trying to draw a comparison between them and the elite family bloodlines, but some say there are. So let's just go with that. But the universe has the power within it to do these types of things. And in India, they have the 10th avatar, also known as the last avatar prophecy. That could be perceived as an emanation of truth through an incarnation of souls that speak the truth. And they just keep coming one after another. You ain't going to stop this wave. And there's something about this type of a biological matrix in which some souls, kind of like Superman being told by his mother, yeah, you can go down, but you ain't going to be one of us anymore. You're going to be one of them. You can get shot, you can get stabbed. If you're going to go about this, but there's a purpose in doing that. And maybe some souls falling in. Some are going to fall into this world, and it's not going to be a bad thing. They're trying to bring it back up. We could be told perversions that angels that fall in to do good are all bad by fallen angels solely being associated with these evil demons that fall in or come in, zap in to rape earth women and create hybrids. Yeah, there's got to be other examples of other entities that have come into this world. And I don't think our world is rich with them. Some of the stories that would include them, or beings of good, humans that may have paid their tribute to the goddess in the past, or other forms of life. Thoth comes to mind. I said earlier, I think I'm going to give that some time, as well as Hermes. See, I've learned a few things also as I get older, and I realize there are certain people out there that are going to demonize all esoteric teachings because that's all they do on the internet. since the internet's been given to them, is to use it as an expression of the programming of the orthodox religions. So there's tons of people that embed themselves in what they call a truth movement. This must be old school for people to act like they're a part of like a woke movement or say they're woke when they're anything but. So right now we have like, it's like saying like Coca-Cola is like health juice. Like no. and there's clearly in my eyes a little bit of a distinction just from the labeling from like regular classic Coke to this like black label thing. You know what I think when I see that black label? I think like poison. I think like, you know, the Camel Crush cigarettes. You know, but just imagine, if you will, suspend disbelief and think about a world where that's considered water. Idiocracy's the movie. That's right. And they can't figure out why their crops are failing. And they're watering their crops with Gatorade saying, it's got electrolytes. It's got electrolytes. And it's like, you know, like these things. And it would be ironic that it would be like a Fox Media production. Because Fox in so many ways promotes that idiocracy way of life. So does CNN, so does MSNBC. So they will actually take the truth and show it to you and make money off of it while laughing and going, the people still don't get it, yet it's in plain sight. Let me shift gears up here and then close for, well, it's 9:39 in the morning. I've been up since about 3 because I'm very cold here. Off the grid unless I have the heater going all night. So I wake up early, turn on the heater after sleeping with the heater off for a few hours. I do have enough fuel. I was able to get off the mountain recently. One of the things I like to do is walk around one of the towns about 70 miles away. I want to thank Jared and others that do send a little when you can. I mentioned a few donations that came in recently. I'm maintaining my insurance. I'm out of, I think, the hairs of the court. I think I'm done with them. They wanted to, keep me in their tentacles as long as possible. I'm trying to stay on the insurance. I invest in my own mental health by getting away from my own workspace once in a while. And I just walk around the next town over, and it's a populated town. And it's a town in which I've reached out to the people there. And I've come to realize this is the coldest time that I've ever experienced since I've been alive, trying to reach out with the real world. I try to work with the audience so both of us have a good mental health perspective on things, and you understand how much I appreciate you. But I see you then as part of not the 10% or 1%, but like 0.0001%. Elements of the audience has always had an issue with that, especially if they thought that they were a part of a winning tribe that represented like the 50% or the 99%, or with people that are directed to me that come from the Trump crowd. They hear me talking about China, other issues. They think I'm in with them in the yo, what's up in the left-right paradigm. Oh yeah, I'm throwing gang tats at you, signs at you. Better do a documentation of that West Side. But in reality, I would be the best of the West meeting the East, which is a new little slogan to describe what it is that I do. When the best of the West meets the East. Alex Ansary, outside the box. And that's what it is. And as people come and they find this, there's going to be people that are in different political understandings. They're like, oh, you're not going to be talking about Q? Oh, let's talk about Clinton then. Then let's conclude this video and talk about Clinton. It says a lot when they're saying all the stuff about Clinton being the devil woman, but they're not talking about 800,000 Rwandans being killed. But on that note, Bill Clinton, fresh baby face with, the baby powder still coming off of his face. For those of you that have seen him acting like he's under mind control in that famous MK Ultra tape where he's being recorded, he's like, I'm a baby. He's got a handler going, that's nice. We're going to go now to another city, another state. He's like, can we go there? Can we go there? Oh, can we go there? Oh, I'm so happy. Can I have some ice cream? So yeah, we have this famous video where Bill Clinton's acting like a little kid. People focus on the weird shit. Have you ever noticed that? When they'll take out nearly 1 million people, and they'll be like, yeah, shucks, man, fucking conspiracy. But like, no, they don't have the passion to really expose Rwanda like I do, or others, or Afghanistan. They're like in this, oh, he smells like sulfur, must be the devil. Alex Jones told me. Alex Jones told me. After the voices in the head told Alex Jones. Just broadcasting mental illness, folks, is a no bueno way of life. It's against the feng shui. The yin and yang is way off the balance chi. So I want to bring that up to you that, he's coming out and he's being honest with the American public and said it wasn't in our interest to step in and stop it. In front of the whole world, they pulled out their people, their officials, and it was literally seen as a sea of white people fleeing while a sea of black people continued to be slaughtered over a course of 100 days while it was being broadcast through the radio where certain people lived, where certain people were traveling. So everybody was getting their instructions from the radio over a 100-day siege, and the Western powers not only pulled out and had orders not to stop the killing, they had orders not to take down the radio station over free speech. See, it's like, I want to find an in here. There should be really like peace and bread breaking between people that have chose to divide on the left or right. Once they understand this, and once they can even go beyond like any type of reactionaryism, what's also known as reverse racism, being racist then to white people is not the answer. It's to understand there's forces of evil and all these different, learning that there are rapes in India doesn't mean then that you should be racist then to Indian. There's like forces of evil, folks, that are rising on the earth. And the evil is aiming to dominate these talking points that say, see the evil that we have gotten some men and women to do? Now let's create some evil to do. And there's like this back and forth echo chamber. And you also got to realize that you got to fight your own battles. Right? You don't see people coming to my aid when people attack me. People got to fight their own battles. I've had to become a survivor in my own streets, if you will, astral streets, for years, dealing with types of attackers and types of attacks and taunts that others don't have to deal with. And I've had to do it with isolation, without a loved one, or without the normal forms of human compassion that's normal to the human being. I've been removed from that type of situation and have for some reason, an advanced level of isolation that I've experienced. It's the master within me that realizes, though, that all these people that came before me that have written amazing things did it in isolation and did it without, and certainly without a group of, I don't know of anybody, Lao Tzu, Buddha, Jesus. I don't think it said that Jesus had groupies, although he hung out with the protests, the prostitutes. He may have hung out with the prostitutes. I don't know if Jesus got down butt naked, had a gangbang with the prostitutes. I think he may have just hung out with the prostitutes and talked. So it's like the spiritual being. I was thinking about stuff, folks, that I'm not even going to talk to you about. But without a doubt, there were certain types of people that offered themselves to me in a lustful way during certain years in which I was coming up. It could have just been that primal attraction, a person's energy. But there's a deeper reason why someone would be attracted to someone who's coming up doing good. That would create then a heartbreak, then create then other interference that might combine with others, creating the heartbreak experience, combined with other things if that person's not totally centered and in their power at all times. And I don't think I was. There were chinks in my armor. And it comes from just living in a city. Not so much a downfall, but a like, okay, so we've reached a point where this experience is now over. Not so much a failure like, okay, I got up to this point, and right as we're coming up on 2012, I'm realizing there's impact here. Okay, I'm realizing there's impact right here. It's not the end of the world. It's a conjunction of energies. So from 2012, I already knew solar flares and wars, solar flares and paranormal, certain cities, acupuncture, Portland, ley line, being a flood of poltergeist energies during solar maximum years, which 3 to 5 on average. During peaks in solar activity, increase in attempted rapes, increase in drive-by shootings, increase in successful one-night stands, mind you, for those into that kind of thing. I felt like I was developing an advanced knowledge from being a Portlander on how these solar flares were directly impacting human behavior. And since then, I've been narrating world events with the sun in a way that other humans are not. I believe there's value in it. I believe there's value in data dumping, at least my perspective on it, even if the people of this day and age overlook it and call me crazy. I think in future generations, right, they'll be more interested, especially if they're actually able to, like, think about the geniuses the real geniuses of tomorrow that apparently weren't born in this supposed crystal child generation, supposed, where are those with the mathematics to go, oh, damn, the stuff Alex Ansari's talking about is scientific. It is statistic. It's not just the weather and cold spells and Mondrian minimums, but it includes that. Someone could start just by learning about the connection with the ice age and solar minimum. And then they can learn about solar maximum and connections with earthquakes and other things, major changes. They can look at Fukushima taking place within days of a major geomagnetic storm. They can look at Hurricane Katrina taking place within a major geomagnetic storm. They can have a hyper-intelligence that realizes that even if man-made technologies were used, they were specifically used when nature already created a ball of energy, if you will, a matrix of energy, if you will, a vortice of energy, if you will, that thus they attempted to steer into a city. Do I have an amen? Are you with me now? So it's not just these random transmitters that are flipped on. There are natural things that are taking place as things shift, and there's ways the controllers have technology to where they try to manipulate those things for a number of reasons that are now in the arena that we can only speculate on. Where would you like to begin, and where would you like to conclude? But I will conclude with this. I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank those people that have supported me getting some fuel this week, also getting off the mountain, people that will continue to contribute as I go down the mountain, I get some oxygen. I am Alex Ansari. Until the next video, whenever that may be, reminding you the path to the ultimate truth and place of power and peace still lies within.